When the Roman Empire fell, its legacy lived on in laws, language, and art. But what happened when Rome met its match? When two superpowers clashed? Who survived Rome's hatred and who got left in the dust? That's what we'll find out today. Number 10. Rise of two empires. In the 3rd century BCE, most of southern Europe belonged to the Greeks. But two powers were changing everything. Rome, a small Italian city, was becoming a republic with growing ambitions. And in the west, the great trading power of Carthage controlled the Mediterranean coast. Both were strong, ambitious, and looking to expand. But it wasn't yet their time. They'd have to wait for destiny to intervene. Rome had already conquered the Italian peninsula and was taking its first steps into the Mediterranean. Then came the war over Sicily. Carthage had long held the island, but Rome saw it as a prize worth fighting for. So in 264 BCE, the First Punic War began. Number 9. The First Punic War. The First Punic War was mostly fought at sea. Rome had no navy, but built one fast. They developed ships designed for ramming and boarding tactics, ending the days of traditional sea battles. Instead, they made the decks their own, fighting hand to hand. Their secret weapon was the corvus. It was a boarding bridge that dropped down from the front of the ship. They literally attacked other ships and carried the fight onto the deck. The Punic Wars became wars of attrition. Each side kept sending ships to fight in. The Romans might have been fast learners, but the Carthaginians were masters of the seas. The war dragged on for more than 20 years. Finally, in 241 BCE, the Carthaginians lost. They had to abandon their claims to Sicily, pay expensive reparations, and lose many of their overseas territories. The Mediterranean had shifted, opening up to more Roman influence, but Carthage would soon come back. Enter Hannibal, the Second Punic War. As the First Punic War raged, a new generation of Carthaginian leaders and generals rose up. By 221 BCE, a young man named Hannibal Barca took charge. He wanted revenge against Rome, and he had a plan. If he could destroy Rome's power base, they wouldn't be able to wage war. But how? The answer lay across the Alps, deep in northern Italy. Hannibal and his armies crossed through the mountains with thousands of men and dozens of elephants. It was one of the greatest maneuvers in military history. And when he reached the plains of Italy, it was devastation. He beat the Romans badly at the Trebia River in 218 BCE. Then came the battle that shocked Rome, the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE. Number 7. The Battle of Cannae. At Cannae, Hannibal set a trap. His elite troops hid among a thick wood of war elephants, which charged into the Romans. They broke through the center of the Roman lines, trapping them into a crescent. There was nowhere to run. Surrounded, the Romans fought bravely, but they were slaughtered. Up to 50,000 Roman soldiers died at Cannae, the worst defeat in Roman history. Rome was shaken. People felt betrayed by their generals. But after mourning, Rome changed its strategy. Instead of fighting Hannibal in Italy, they took the war to his allies in Spain and Iberia. Years passed. Rome slowly gained ground, and Hannibal had to go home to defend his cities. By 203 BCE, the tide had completely turned. Scipio strikes back. Rome's greatest general during the war, Scipio Africanus, landed in North Africa. The Carthaginians tried to stop him, but were defeated at the Battle of the Great Plains in 203 BCE. Then came the end. Number 5. The Battle of Hannibal and Scipio faced each other at the Battle of Zama in 2 BCE. It would decide the war and perhaps change the course of history. Hannibal's elephants marched forward, but as they moved, Scipio's cavalry struck, flanking the troops and tearing them apart. The rest of the Carthaginian army collapsed. They ran from the field. Hannibal's defeat was complete. He'd done all he could to save his city. Now he watched in sadness as Carthage surrendered to Rome. They agreed to give back the territories captured in the war and accept whatever peace Rome offered. But the fighting was over now for uneasy peace. The Second Punic War had devastated both sides. Whole regions had been destroyed, hundreds of thousands of lives lost. But Rome hadn't wiped out Carthage. Yet for some Romans, the thought of a Carthaginian revival bothered them. They demanded total victory. Every speech of Cato the Elder ended with the same words: Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. The seeds of another war had been planted. 3 decades passed. Rome grew stronger, Carthage grew rich. But could they ever trust each other? Not if Cato had anything to say about it. But his crusade didn't immediately succeed. Number 3. The Third Punic War. In 149 BCE, Cato got his chance. The Third Punic War began with a Roman invasion, a siege of Carthage, and the burning of its docks. Over the next 3 years, the Romans starved out the city. They cut off food and water, then bombed Carthage with catapults. No quarter was given. The Roman Senate wanted the Carthaginians to submit and become their slaves. They never would. No. 2. Fall of Carthage. On the 3rd year of the siege, something terrible happened. The Roman army broke through Carthage's city walls. They stormed inside, unleashing violence and fire. Citizens fled in terror as buildings turned to ashes. The great libraries of Carthage were gutted. along with temples and homes. But still, the people of Carthage refused to surrender. That is until Rome unleashed its deadliest weapon, war elephants. The massive animals charged through the streets, trampling anyone in their way. Seeing their city destroyed, their families slaughtered, the Carthaginians finally gave up. Rome accepted their surrender, but only on one condition: every person in the city must leave. Many fled across the sea, but those who stayed behind had only one fate: death or slavery. In the end, Carthage was completely destroyed. Its very name removed from records, replaced with a Latin word for burning. The once proud city was turned into a Roman colony and the soil salted, so nothing could grow there ever again. No. 1. The aftermath. With Carthage gone, Rome ruled the Mediterranean. They added former Carthaginian lands and riches to their growing empire. But the Punic Wars showed that even giants could fall. The fighting had drained Rome's treasury and manpower. To win the last war, they'd actually torched their own countryside. Carthage may have been destroyed, but its legacy lived on. Many Romans remembered the threat Carthage once was, the almost defeat at Carni, the fear of Hannibal's elephants. So they kept weapons pointed towards the eastern Mediterranean. Carthage had shown them what they were capable of, but now they knew Rome could destroy them in an instant. All in all, the Punic Wars proved that even legends can die. Sometimes to get to the top, you have to crush your competition, but sometimes competition makes you better. You can even learn from your rivals. Now it's time for you to enter the battlefield. Comment below. Which superpower would you rather be? Rome or a Carthage? Which side do you think would win? Be sure to hit that subscribe button to join us next time for more epic clashes from history. See you soon.